That's not something we can rely on anymore. We're exiting a very, very broken shared services agreement. Thankfully, finally, I appreciate the board's support in leaving that agreement, but we got to move on.
Okay, so I'm not sure everybody in the room understands what happened and when it happened. You want to just give us a 2-minute briefing on that?
So back in May of 2024, we received an initial correspondence from Fire District 5 that they wished to terminate the shared services agreement. They were giving us a very short notice. After that, they decided they would meet. Myself, Deputy Chief Kramer, who's not here, as well as Battalion Chief Buckhofer, under the board's direction, spent some time meeting with their chief and one of their full-time firefighters, trying to, the board's initial direction was to try to find common ground to have a renewed shared services agreement. Our district firmly believes that the shared services agreement was in place. Their district did not. Regardless, it's beyond January 1. Those negotiations occurred. We had the initial meeting, I believe, in July of 2024, and the intention of those meetings was to meet with those represented parties of District 5, their chief and one of their firefighters, and, hey, give us a number. That meeting occurred. They came not only, I believe, 33 minutes late to the meeting, but with no numbers. We then met with them again. Same story, late to the meeting, didn't come with numbers. And the district was not actually presented with numbers, I believe, until the November board meeting, November. It was late October that we had the meeting, myself and Battalion Chief met with them. We went over those numbers in November, being given very short notice on what to do before the end of the year for budgeting purposes. It was decided after the presentation of it, and the cornerstone of their ask was, I believe the number was $211,800 per year to provide 24/7 fire protection to the residents of Fire District 6, of which half of that money was going to be sent down to Pine Hill. And that is pursuant to a shared services agreement that exists between Gloucester Township Fire District 5 and the Pine Hill Fire District, which in that agreement, it states that any additional response that either district would incur and any funds received as a result of that response, they would split the funds between the two districts. Number one is in discussions with the board. It was the opinion of myself, command staff, and the board that if absolutely possible, we did not want to be sending Gloucester Township taxpayer dollars outside of Gloucester Township to another town such as Pine Hill, regardless of their shared services agreement. So that was a non-starter in the proffer initially. Furthermore, is that the numbers were grossly inflated by our belief as far as what we would require. We never required full 7-day-a-week coverage, and they were using a FEMA rate to get to their numbers, which was not applicable to the circumstances. And last but not least, or maybe next to last but not least, is the part of the agreement would require that both of those departments would respond to every single call for service here in District 6, whether we were staffed or not. That is a hyper-resourcing of apparatus. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars in those communities, by my opinion, and my professional expertise of doing this 21 years. And additionally, even I am told that in their own end-of-year video for Fire District 5, promoting the fire company, one of their fire apparatus at 3 different points in the video is seen running a red light. Explain to me how doing that and coming into our community makes the residents of Gloucester Township Fire District 6 any safer. And last, but certainly not least, and the gentleman sitting to my left, aside from being the battalion chief here, I know that I'm going to get stabbed under the table for referencing it again, but he's a sworn law enforcement officer for a municipality in South Jersey. Looking right now at one of the commissioners who was a retired law enforcement officer, there's a higher level of credibility standard that comes with holding that position. Correct, Commissioner Robinson?
Yes, sir. And
if I'm lying, I would ask the battalion chief to correct me, but on the record, during the final meeting that we had with the chief of Fire District 5, the gist of the conversation was about, hey, we heard you go into all these calls the other night. And by his own admission, he said, yeah, it was one of those nights where I didn't exactly have the best crew on. And you want us to pay for that? I'm sorry, no. Does that summarize it, Mr. Chairman?
I think that's pretty good, concise. It's not exactly the history of America, but it's pretty close, so. Okay. So the idea was that we could negotiate a new shared services agreement.
Correct.
The pricing that they wanted was unreasonable.
And aside from the pricing, if I may just add one thing, is that in that, and shared services agreements historically, as we all agree, for the folks in the room, they are wonderful for procurement of material goods. If you can grab it, and if it doesn't walk, it's great. You can realize a lot of savings. But in regards to an operation, you have very limited recourse to correct operational matters or personnel matters that impact the residents of your community when it's done by an outside party. In fact, by very little, I mean virtually none, zero.
Well, that was an ongoing problem.
Correct.
At the very beginning. There was no leadership over the shared teams. It became the Wild West in terms of practices and lack of safety and any kind of order that you'd see in even the worst military organization. And it was out of control. And we tried for, I've been a commissioner here, I guess, almost 20 years. We tried for 10 years to get it back in line and just couldn't. And our concern is that the way that it was going, there was going to be some accident that none of us would be proud of, and we had to make a change. So that's where we are. The implications of that is that we're going to have to spend some of our savings, which we were pretty good at for a while, to get through this next year. To get through the year after that, we're going to look for some grants and some other funding. We could not go out on our own 24/7 without some financial aid down the road. We'll make it through next year, okay? For those of you that know us, we're always proud. Some fire companies are proud of their ladders. Some fire companies are proud of their pumpers. We're proud of our bank accounts. And it's coming in to help us when we really need it. So that's it. It's over. We started out on our own on January 1st. The first 20 days or so have been okay, no problems. And we're going to refine the schedule and other things that we need to do over the next 6 months. Great. Any questions on that? Anybody in the room want to ask us about that? I prefer to take those now while we're... Sir? Name and address, state your name.
My name is Ray Polidoro. I'm from here in the historic village of Erial. So, and I'm trying to understand this as best I can. This year's budget will include those additional fees for the shared service agreement,
No.
but future will?
No.
Okay.
So what has happened is we have hired, or we're in the process of hiring sufficient staff to cover 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Chief, you want to address that?
So in the interim, so we need to provide by statute, every fire district in the state of New Jersey needs to provide fire protection to their community. Since we will no longer be in that position with the shared services agreement, where we were receiving, the only remuneration that we provided was for paying for essentially a part-time firefighter's position in District 5. We are currently utilizing, we've adjusted our full-time schedule, at least 3 days a week between them and our volunteer stipend program. District 6 personnel are covering the district. The other days of the week, the district is divided in half, and we are receiving assistance from Squad 88, which is the other staff company in Gloucester Township, and Winslow Township Fire Department. So we will be hiring 2 additional full-time personnel. That will bring our numbers to 6. They will be divided into a 3-platoon system, supplemented by part-time employees, which will give us the 3-platoon system necessitated to achieve 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week coverage here for the residents in the historic village of Erial.
Beautiful. Because as long as I've lived here, and I'd be the first to admit, we've gotten superior service in this town. Being involved in a lot of township business that goes on, if you want to call it business, I found this fire department to be the most efficient, most cost-effective, and transparent fire company in this whole township.
If I may just tack on to that, Mr. Polidoro, and part of the means that the chairman alluded to, that we were able to do this is that, I agree with everything that was said about the current cost and then the potential problem in the future. This is not something that I think that myself or the members of the board didn't see coming down the line. We've been, from the operations side of the house, we've been asking for additional staffing for years. The feedback that was always provided by the board is, well, how are we going to pay for it? I took over with about 2.5 months left as the administrator before I became the chief here of the fire district, and in 2022 we put we had this. I would personally think it's a bad habit. We'd get to our fiscal year runs January to December 31st, and we'd reach the late fall, or beginning of the fall, September, October, and certain people would see, oh my gosh, look, we still have $340,000 in this year's budget that we didn't spend. And all of a sudden, I made reference to it at the last meeting, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, is we'd have a parade of UPS and FedEx trucks for the next 45 days delivering things that maybe we didn't need. That year, number one, out of a belief that you save it for a rainy day, and number two is trying to satisfy these needs, is we stopped that practice. In 2023, as a result of the audit, it was finally enumerated. I believe the number was about $364,000 because of other practices that we've done collectively. We used to spend regularly, Commissioner Greer, this would be your line item, $35,000+ a year on apparatus maintenance. We have a piece of apparatus out there that since warranty completion, we've spent over $107,000 in maintenance on. And that was through using private vendors. We were able to leverage a shared services agreement with the township, once again, an area where they make sense, and they have excess capacity in their motor maintenance shop. We pay them for the rate of the workers, and which is a much lower rate than what we would get from a private contractor. And any of the parts or items ordered, whether it be tires for the apparatus, oil, we're not receiving a markup on those items. So practices like that of identifying areas where we can have savings, where we don't need to spend the money. So that was 2023, and I don't have the final 2024 number, but it's at least another $350,000. So in those 3 years, we have underspent our budget by a combined number of close to $1 million.
Would there be a situation, and I'll try and stay on topic with the budget, would there be a situation that this proposed shared service agreement between Department 5 and Pine Hill, that this could be forced upon District 6? The one thing that I've learned with following government the way that I do is that the state of New Jersey has no oversight over just about anything that doesn't have to do with first responders. Every government in New Jersey basically can do whatever they want because there's nobody that cares above them. And there's no one that has checks and balances. And you can go to the comptroller, you can go to the Municipal Services Division in Trenton. And most of the people that I dealt with, I probably think never finished 5th grade in a conversation with them. And then when you try to get them to do something about the things that happen in your township, they go, oh my God, and they're useless. What I'm possibly thinking, and you guys would know better, and you have separated yourself from what I would call nothing less than a tax and spend fire district here in our town, who found it necessary to leapfrog over the finest district in South Jersey and get into that agreement with a town that's going to financially benefit. Is there absolute certainty in this body that this cannot be forced upon you, which would in essence wind up causing your budget to go up higher, and for the first time, for as long as I can remember, create an increase in our taxes for fire?
I learned a long time ago not to be a lawyer, but Mr. Solicitor, can they force us into a shared services agreement?
As long as we have mutual aid, they can absolutely not force us into that.
Which we have. When he uses the interlocal agreement expression, that's our backup.
And they certainly can't force us to pay them $211,000 a year.
I missed where the sharing was in that number.
I'm sorry?
I missed where the sharing was in that
Yeah.
There wasn't any sharing.
Yeah.
Only sharing was between them and Pine Hill.
And just for the record, maybe this could wait till the next portion, but I probably am done fastest. This whole idea of the shared service agreement that seems to cost a lot of money and jump all over the place and give new titles and probably new stipends and what have you, the suspending spree. Was this idea initiated from Pine Hill, or was this initiated from our side of area in the Brooklyn Road in District 5? Do we know for sure where the initiation of this?
For this quote-unquote regional.
Well, I can tell you for a fact, to your exact question, I don't think I know, and I don't think anybody knows. But we were approached, I believe it was the August board meeting, by a fire officer from Pine Hills Fire District, espousing on the idea of creating a regional fire district. Later to find out that he did not have, as we were told, permission from his district to come make that presentation. An examination of Pine Hills minutes for the meeting afterwards, their chief spoke to their Board of Fire Commissioners, it's in their minutes online, about how he would be the fire chief over that regional department, which is not anything that was brought up in that meeting, is not, and I sure as heck hope would not be entertained by this body.
Okay. So, and my question probably better suited for attending a District 5 meeting and see what their answer is. But thank you for your time, and I really, really appreciate the job that you've done for as long as I lived here, doing what you do, and the only ones that are raising my taxes is the county and the township. And thank you for what you do. And thank you all for what you do.